Hi, everyone. My name is Charlene Platon, CEO and co-founder of Fifth Window. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is our March 2024 Nurse Spotlight, and we are so excited to share the spotlight with you all. We host these monthly spotlights to highlight nursing and the diverse profession of nursing, as well as everyone's different nursing journeys. And we have a live stream today. So for today's spotlight, we will be screening questions and comments that come through to the chat. We are streaming right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram for the first time. So we'll see how that all plays out. But feel free to drop a comment or a question in the chat throughout this conversation. And we will do our best to answer your questions throughout the duration of our conversation today. And so for now, I would like to introduce our Fifth Window team. So I'll go ahead and bring Kathy in.
Hi, everyone. Kathy Schaefer, co-founder of Fifth Window. I am a registered nurse and also a licensed, certified compassion fatigue professional. And, we have had a little bit of a break here with our spotlights over the last several months. Fifth Window has been doing some rethinking of our focus and where we're going, but still supporting nurses and their mental well-being. And we are super excited for today's conversation as we delve more into focusing on ourselves as nurses.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And so now I am really honored to welcome our March 2024 Nurse Spotlight guest, Kasey Pacheco. Kasey Pacheco is a dedicated nurse collaborator and entrepreneur, and she is the CEO of Preservers of Life LLC, which is a digital marketing agency. And she's also executive director of Nurses in Charge, which is a global nonprofit geared towards bolstering the international nursing team. And with a passion for highlighting the often overlooked aspects of life, she's not just a nurse, but also a video content creator, nurse guide, community collaborator, burnout prevention coach, holistic health educator, speaker, and YouTuber. And Kasey believes that true value transcends mere titles, but lies within what we were each purposed to become as nurses. She strives to bring our collective awareness to the preciousness of life itself. And her mission is to promote the fullness of life and joy and bring real health into the world. And so, Kasey, we are so excited to have you here today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that spotlight.
No, it's so great to have you here, Kasey. Thank you so much for being our spotlight guest today. We have a lot to talk about and we'll dive right into it. But just want to say it's so good to see you again after we met at the Intelli retreat last year. It's been far
Uh-huh.
too long. So just
Yeah.
really excited to bring you into our spotlight today and just learn, more about you and share a little bit more about your work as well. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we like to start our spotlights talking about everyone's different nursing journeys. And can you tell us a little bit first about what inspired you to nursing?
Yes, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago. And, in Trinidad, we're just like, we take care of people, in the neighborhood. But there was this lady in my neighborhood, and she was so sweet to us, always give us cookies and stuff. And at the age of about 12, she had an accident. Someone tried to rob her, and they threw her down to the floor. And she was just so terrified to get up and walk again. And she stayed in the bed until she passed away. And I took care of her because she was my friend. And that's what I said, the doctor would do house visits and always call me the nurse. And I said, well, if this is nursing, I want to do it because I'm already doing it. I love it.
Thank you for sharing that story, Kasey. And, that's such a moving story. I know that, nursing is a lot of times a calling and it's not always, something that we might think about at first. Do you have any other family members or anyone else in nursing that's in your circle or?
Yes, my aunt, she is a nurse. She's been an LPN for a long time, but she actually became a nurse in the United States. And I think she has a calling because she still is a nurse to this very day. So, yes.
That's amazing. And I know that you also have your journey as an entrepreneur in addition to what you do in nursing. And you're currently CEO of Preservers of Life.
Mhm.
And I know that that's a digital marketing agency, but can you tell us a little bit more about your work there and what inspired you to start that business?
Sure. Preservers of Life has been out for the past 3 years, and it was mainly focused on holistic wellness in the community. And I had to pivot because I realized that my skills, talents, and abilities was way more appreciated when I was helping the community with their marketing, especially the nonprofits. So I pivoted to digital marketing. Actually, this year we launched, we redid everything. Still do some holistic wellness, but for the company itself, we help bring value and visibility because, like you could see, I don't really have a shy bone in my body. And I'm more on the networking side, but I love it's my passion. I can do it in my sleep. I love graphics. I love, you know, nice branding and flyers, everything, social media. I love it. So I said, let me just pair this with all the connections that I've had and offer some value to especially nurses, nurse practitioners. That's kind of my aim. But it's anybody of value in the community that really don't have a digital voice. That's kind of our focus in helping them become visible and shine the light on their value.
I think that is absolutely invaluable to those community partners, but absolutely amazing to see a nurse, right, who's using this creative skill set, who
Mm,
probably still uses that nursing background
mhm,
of how to highlight what these nonprofits are actually doing in the space of probably social determinants of health.
mm,
How do you get recognized so that people want to collaborate with you? And I wonder what was it about that? I mean, I know you said your direction changed because you love the creativity part, but was there something about the nonprofit side that you're like, you need to get your voice out there bigger and stronger, or was it that you saw I could do this better for you?
Well, I think when I worked as an administrator, I would get so upset with marketing because I felt as though marketing was more like competition and how
Mm,
we are better than the competition. And I'm like, so many people are suffering and they really need these services. We don't have time to talk about who is better than who. Let's just let people know what we do. And I realized going out into the community that there is not a lot of clarity as
mhm,
far as what people do. So you would find people sitting down and saying, I need someone to help me with this. And then there's somebody else struggling saying, I need to help someone. This is my purpose. This is my value. But the connection never happened. So I get really passionate about it because there are a lot of valuable people, but they're not visible. And sometimes they
mm.
don't have the dollars to start. But if they just get started, they would get the dollars because there are people looking. So I use and we'll talk about this with holistic, but I use a lot of feminine energy in my business. We're not
Mm.
chasing, we're not pursuing. We're saying, hey, this is me. This is my nurse practitioner. She's like a flower. She has all these valuable services. Who do you know? Who can use her services? So it's more of a attracting energy rather than a pursuing, running down energy.
Yeah, no, I think that's again a very clever way to look to that. Nurses don't have any kind of, unless you go get an MBA or
Mhm,
you take a business course, nurses don't really have a business background. And it's a shame because we are a business. Our practice is invaluable and we offer a service. And
mhm,
I think that sometimes nurses just have that mentality of, well, that's my calling. I'm supposed to give everything that I have and then some, but not realizing that let's be savvy about this.
mhm, mhm.
Mhm. And I was wondering too, just to add to that, Casey, how do you feel that your nursing background might have contributed to that path of digital marketing in that space? Do you feel like it kind of helped to shape that part of your journey?
I think definitely like what Kathy was saying, it's really a mindset. And what I have found, even though I've been in business since I was a little girl, I what I have found is when you work for as an employee, it really messes with your mind, and you need to have a different mind when it comes to business. So I do this thing where I double dutch and I would go back into the hospital or into the working, because that's the comfort zone as a nurse. As a nurse, most nurses, we like bedside. That's the comfort zone. But what I realized actually when I pivoted into an administrative role, I realized that it's a different hat you have to wear. Being a nurse at the bedside versus being a nurse in administration, you have to think differently. And that's what I'm learning right now in business. You have to think differently. You have to think, the way you think as a nurse and the way you think as a business person is not the same. And that really, when that clicked in my head, I was like, oh no, I have to help, especially nurse practitioners. They have my heart because they are going to fill a lot of gaps in our society. But if they don't know how to think like a business person, even with an MBA, I think you have this innate business savvy that comes over you. And even you might have the credentials, but if you don't have the I don't want to say it, but like this, if you don't have the business acumen where you're like, I am running a business, not just working in a business, I am running a business, you're gonna get run over. You're not gonna be able to serve. And I'm just gonna be transparent. I started my company and I gave away most of my services for free or near to free. And I said, Casey, you have to change. This is not sustainable. Who are you going to serve? How are you going to change the world if you can't even pay your bills? So you have to have a different mindset. And when I was a little girl, my preschool teacher, she did something that helped me, and I think this is what helps me to change and adapt. She would always say, okay, Casey, put on your thinking caps. So she had me literally change caps. And in my head, every time I have to wear a different pants, I literally change caps and I become a different person. So I think that's helped me. Maybe it'll help somebody out there.
No, that's great insight, and thank you for sharing. I really appreciate the transparency because I think a lot of people don't always know what they're getting into, right? In that side of work, because it is a very different mindset, a very different thinking cap, just like you're saying. I really love that, by the way. I think it's like sometimes tying it to a physical type of thing can really make
Mhm.
it make sense, or at least help you kind of compartmentalize that a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, and for nurses who are interested in business, what other types of advice would you give them if they wanted to kind of pursue something that might be a little different, similar to how you pursue your business as a digital marketing agency, something that's pretty different from the healthcare space? What advice would you give to someone who's looking to do that?
For my business, I always, when I start off, and it's not just nurses, just people in general, I always say, this is something I wish I knew, but I will share. You have to be okay that you're not the one doing everything. And so many times as nurses, we do everything. As women, as moms, we do everything. And that kind of becomes our identity. And we kind of pride ourselves like, I do everything by myself. And the faster you could drop that, the better you will soar, you will just flourish, because a business is a team and you need a team. You can't do it by yourself.
Casey, I think that's even great advice for new to practice nurses. Um, you're just like you said, as nurses, we're conditioned to do everything. because there are patients, right? This is my business. This is, right, right. You become possessive, but understanding that you can't do it all, and the one that suffers in the end is usually the thing on the other side, right?
Mhm.
You
Yes.
or your business. And so
Mhm.
understanding that you need to be a team, you need to delegate, you need to be able to prioritize, you need to be able to, I think that's excellent. I mean, I think that's invaluable advice for any nurse.
Mhm.
One that's starting a business, but I think even for new to practice nurses, how
Mhm.
you have to lean on others
Yes.
in order to be successful.
Yes. Yes, and I would piggyback off of you because that's something, my husband, he is a relatively new nurse, and men, they know what they do and they know what they don't do. When I was a new nurse, man, I felt bad if I had to ask someone to start an IV for me. I felt like I was so incompetent if I couldn't do an NG tube or if there was a skill that it wasn't my favorite. And you you get out here in the business world and they are like, no, I don't do that. Who does it? I'm reading this book.
That's so
It's
true.
who who not how by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it's like this makes so much sense. I wish I knew this as a new nurse because you find out who does it, and it really is part of teamwork. And then you don't feel so incompetent about yourself.
I actually found out about that book recently. That's a great suggestion. It's on my reading list because I love that, who not how to get to build your dream, to move forward in your business, accomplish your goals because that's really how you can do that, You build your dreams and your goals with a team. It's so
Mhm.
hard to do it all on your own. And if you do it all on your own, it really can lead to burnout and I kind of want to segue there because in Teleretreat, I learned about the Burnout Prevention Network that you've started, and I want to talk about that a little bit because I think it's such a great initiative to bring people together who might be experiencing burnout. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Burnout Prevention Network and how you got that started?
Sure. So I developed the burnout prevention network because I was out there as a holistic nurse, have my own practice. And then I realized there were so many different nurse coaches. They had different things going on. And I mean, just as a human, sometimes you're like, oh, that's my competition, and then you're all on LinkedIn trying to help nurses. And I think this is silly. As nurses, we really don't need to be competed because our profession needs as much help. If anything, all of us trying to navigate business and get clients and we're gonna burn out as we try to help other people not burn out because running a business is a full-time affair. And I thought these nurses who are trying to help other nurses not burn out, most times we are doing it because we burnt out. And I was still on a journey to find out why do we burn out? Why do we keep on burning out? And yeah, of course I found out the problem is me. But I formed the network because I said, let's come together and let's form an entire coalition where together we can be a resource for nurses not burning out. So it wasn't just nurses and nurse coaches. I had some massage therapists, some yoga teachers, just anybody in the holistic space. I just brought them together and I said, let's work together. And my idea at the time was I'm going to promote your content so that because it gets tiring promoting content. So when you get tired of promoting and doing the marketing for your business or posting, then I can lift you up. If I say, oh, I haven't seen, so and so in a while, I can just share their posts. So that's how I actually got started sharing other people's posts virally. And it just picked up. I just was elevating nurses and actually to be honest, I got burnt out doing the burnout prevention network. I got burnt out because I realized that they would only meet and wait to meet with me, and I said, man, there must be a better way. So that's how I got connected with nurses in charge.
Got it. And thank you for sharing that. I think what you're sharing resonates so much because we want to do so much good and we have so much good intentions, especially as nurses and as healthcare workers. So many of us are in the space of wanting to help others, and putting and pouring so much into that can often lead to, an empty cup for ourselves. So I'd love to hear more about Nurses in Charge too, because I know that that's also one of your big passions. So could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so Nurses in Charge, one of the members of the Burnout Prevention Network, she had a nonprofit. And I really kind of stayed away from nursing organizations. No shame, but I just personally, I just thought it was limited. And I'm a person that I just have this justice thing in me. And I thought, what there is nurses organization for RNs, but what about our LPNs? What about our CNAs? Who's organizing them? Who's how could I implement anything without my team? Like this doesn't make any sense. So when she told me that she started an organization that includes CNAs, LPNs, med techs, like anybody who that with nurse or assist nurses, she wants professional development and it's going to be global in scope. I was like, yeah, sign me up. This is the future. So I actually paired the burnout prevention network because I said, as nurses are out there trying to make a change and help the world, we're gonna have to remember not to burn out. And then I thought, if we had this global community and built in a global community, we have our own burnout prevention network, meaning we have our own team of coaches and nurses looking out for everyone on an international scene and making sure that they're not burning out as we're doing all these things. I just thought that would be sustainable. So yeah, we linked up and then I was on fire because everything I do, I can't be fake. So everything I do is very, very authentic. You will get the true Casey. And if I'm gonna do it, I do it passionately. And she said, I think I'm gonna make you the executive director. I said, okay. Okay. And of course, I know that role as the executive director is it's just an extension of my brand ambassadorship, meaning that I'm using my gift to bring nurses from all over the world together. And of course, I know they have way more professional leadership skills, experience than me. I'm the person I see value in everybody and everything, and I admire it. And I attract these beautiful people all around the globe to come and build this. And whatever you want to see within the nursing profession, come and have a team to support you and build and see how your ideas can be um, incubated and really, really flourish when you have a worldwide team of nurses behind you. And so that's kind of where we are. It's still a new organization, but that's the mindset behind Nurses in Charge.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing about that. And how many nurses are part of that now?
Currently, we have about 50 signed up members, but we have more. We have more, but right now we're just looking because what we need to have the capacity and the technology to host so it's not a whole bunch of chaos. So what we've been doing is we've been partnering all over the world with nonprofit organizations who already serve nurses. And so we have them, but we just don't have the platforms right now for them to all come in. We use WhatsApp a lot because it works for the international audience, but it gets really crowded in there. So it's going to explode as soon as we find the right technology to host everyone.
That's great. So excited to hear about that and can't wait to see the growth. And, we'll give you an opportunity to also share more information about how people could learn more about that. But that is wonderful to hear because we don't often connect with our global nursing colleagues, right? I don't
Mhm.
know if there's many platforms that really do that outside of maybe an international nursing conference or but getting more intimately kind of related to these colleagues and connecting with them on a deeper level is a gap that I think that is so nice that Nurses in Charge is filling. So really excited to see that you're the executive director in that organization, and very excited to see where that goes. Keep us posted on that.
Will
And
do.
Kathy, yeah, and Kathy, anything to add to that as well, or any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm just first of all blown away by all of your really forward thinking when it comes to nursing and collaboration and really supporting each other. I think it's also really an important time because we know that there is a nursing shortage. We know there's going to be a bigger nursing shortage over the next 10 years. In addition, one of the ways to maybe combat the nursing shortage is to create those collaborative teams. And I'm not talking about like the interprofessional team with our other healthcare providers. I'm talking about collaborative teams within the world of nursing, like the LPN and the CNA, how we all make one team. And being able to bring us all together at the same table. So it's not a hierarchy, but more of like a collaborator. Because in the end, it's all about patient care. And I
Yeah.
think being able to have these courageous conversations to say, we all need to sit at the table.
Mhm.
Let's uplift and support each other because if not, we're all going to be burnt out. Because if I don't have enough nurses, then it's going to fall on the LPNs. And if there's not enough LPNs, it's going to fall on the CNAs. If there's not enough CNAs, our team is just going to be churning through the fire from one day to the next. So I also, like Charlene, look forward to this taking off and how we can really come. And I just think about the
Mhm.
voice that nurses can have in
Mhm.
this, right? I mean, everyone coming together and being an advocate for our patients, for our profession, and most of all for ourselves. It's an unstoppable voice that you're building. So kudos to
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. And I think the beautiful thing about it is that it's not just like one person building it or one
Mm,
country building it, but it's all of us nurses building it, even nursing assistants, even,
mhm,
LPNs. Like, just watching them take leadership roles is amazing. Our Africa ambassador, he often pushes me beyond where I think I can go, but what he has so much experience, and he often tells me, in other countries they don't have shortage, they actually have surplus,
mhm,
surplus nurses. So building a team. Ali Farker, he's our ambassador in the Middle East. He describes it so perfectly. He says it's a hub spoke where you have kind of a centralized middle team, and then all the information is diffused from there. So it really breaks down a lot of the hierarchy in nursing that could really be a hindrance, because a lot of the things that are filtered that happen to the top, which are really great. I mean, we have so many nurses, they're fighting for policy, fighting for change, but it never filters down. Like,
mhm.
they don't know. The CNAs, they don't know. The LPNs, they don't know. It doesn't really affect them. So having this different type of system, it really would help us to feed our young instead of eating them.
Yeah. I also think about what a little bit of what you were just talking about, how it that hub and spoke, and it's really kind of getting everyone filtering it down. But I think about how empowering to give, someone on your team who maybe is not the registered nurse, who doesn't have maybe the years of education, but how to empower them that they have just as much of a voice on that team. So
Mhm,
I just think about the collaboration, and then I think about those team members who feel like almost a sense of like, this is my patient just as much as it's your patient, and I'm going to do everything I can, and maybe I'll learn more. Maybe I'll seek opportunities, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that the CNA is going to go on to become an RN.
yeah.
Maybe it just means that they expand um, their knowledge for that patient population. So I don't have to, as the RN, wait to get the information. This CNA is already bringing me the information, and we're collaborating as a team. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just think of what wonderful things that can happen if we all thought that way, right?
Yes.
Like you were
Yes.
talking a little bit before when you were putting together that first group of other practitioners who were going out and it wasn't a competition. I think about that in that little scope right there. Like, it's not a competition of us on the floor, because we're all a team in the end, supporting each other, as well as the end, who is probably our patient population.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
So I wanted to know, you've got all these different pieces of your work. What has been the most challenging part, though, of maybe your work today? And do you have any advice for any nurse who might be interested in what you do, or being a part of any of those different businesses that you have?
Absolutely. So I will talk about the challenges first. For me, the challenge has been really, I would say money, but it's not the money. I think what happens, and as I spoke with Rebecca Love, and she would tell you the history of nurse reimbursement in a second, it makes a lot of sense because as a
Mm,
nurse, we just go, we do our job, we get a paycheck, right? So we're not very aware of our value in terms of dollars and cents. And when it comes to a business, it's how do you price this? How do I price myself and my services? Um, so that has been a challenge for me in figuring out the financial aspect. What I did realize is that as nurses, and I have studied and read a lot, and as nurses, we are in one of the we're taxed so much. When you do your hospital orientation, going through talking about tax deductions, talking about what you want to do for your 401k, health insurance, all of this is like crammed into like 15 minutes, and you have to hurry up and make a choice. And nobody explains to you what you're signing away, what you're putting, unless you have a financial planner. And so what I would advise any nurse, whether they want to do business or they're still at the bedside, is to get yourself become financially literate. Become
mm,
financially literate. I am not there, but I am on a journey to become financially literate. And I think a lot of times nurses they don't see a lot of burnout when you're working 7 12s, right?
mm,
Ask yourself, why did I work 7 12s? I'm running out of money, right? So
mm,
even though you have a high price point, like you are in a northern state and you're getting paid well, do you know your taxes? Do you know about how you could allay or get some, legally, legally defer some of that money? Do you know how to invest? Do you know how you can have a little business? I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to say, find, get, ensure that you have financial literacy as a nurse.
mm. One of the dimensions
Yes.
that Fifth Window focuses on is financial well-being. And we
Mhm.
don't talk, you're absolutely right. We don't talk about that enough, or
And
we don't talk about it at all.
we don't talk about it at all, but and this is just my personal, you're going to get Casey here, right? Because some financial literacy, like there are some things I just don't listen to because
Mm,
you have very many different schools of thought, right? You have you have to know who you are and what you want out of this life, because when you may get some financial literacy conversations going around 401k or savings and retirement, but if you're a new nurse and you're like in your 20s and you're not starting off, right, that may not be the path for you. And so I always say, just when I say educate yourself on all the options out there. Don't just get one person who says this is the way, and then you put all your eggs in one basket, and then you're like many of my colleagues, 65, 70, and still working on
Mm,
the bedside. I'm just being honest.
Mhm.
Not all
yeah,
financial literacy education is suitable for everyone.
yeah,
Mhm. And,
yes.
the financial literacy, a lot of that is part of our personal health, right? Because it all contributes to that. And I want to hear more about your definition of holistic health because I feel like the financial piece is part of that,
Mhm.
right? And could you tell us what is your definition of holistic health and what is it that drove you towards holistic health? Because I know that that's something that you consult on, it's something that you're passionate about. So, how do you personally define holistic health and how does that tie into your work?
So, holistic health, there are many different um, ways you can look at it. For me, when I started off, I looked at it as everything, the seven factors. So your financial, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, your environmental, right? Physical, of course. Everything plays into you being healthy. Um, Now that I am into it a little bit more, I am really going towards mind, body, soul, spirit, energy. Everything is energy. So, and holistic health is paying attention to your energy and making sure that you are 100% in alignment. And it's not just like a title of like alternative meds or supplements, but it's a viewpoint. It's a way of looking at a person. You look at the whole person. You look at everything that contributes to a person and them being healthy. And with that being said, healthy is not just an absence of sickness, right? But that's when I look at energy, right? Do you have life energies flowing in you, through you, with you? Are you alive, right? Or you're just existing? So being healthy is operating as a full human being where your energies are working towards you having life, not just a life, but having life within yourself.
That's such a powerful definition, and I really resonate too with just bringing in that energy, honing in on that, learning more about your personal energy, how you radiate that outwards and how you bring it inwards, how you feel it around you. I think that's a wonderful definition and how that connects with mind, body, spirit. And do you have any suggestions for how nurses can really lean into their holistic health, especially if they might be feeling stuck or maybe they can't feel connected to their energy in that way?
So in my private practice, I came across, I was introduced by my naturopath to this. It's pretty new technology, but it's called a frequency scanner. And it's absolutely mind-blowing because when I was doing my research on burnout, I realized that there is a emotional health is way more significant. And as nurses, our energy is poured out every day, even if you're not with the patient, right? Your thoughts, everything is going so much out, out, out. How does it get back in? Right? How,
Mm,
you get physical energy through food, but how do you get emotional energy back into you? So when I came across this frequency scanner, it uses frequency to realign and rebalance your energy. And I instantly felt a difference. As someone who gives a lot of energy, it recycled my energy in a way that I felt alive. I felt energy and it was just music. Within the music carries the frequencies, but the scanner also it gives you a report as far as where your emotions are because sometimes we know we have superficial labels for our emotions, but sometimes we can't pinpoint just exactly what we're feeling. So it gives
mm,
you a report and it tells you where you are emotionally. And it's been I've tested just about everybody I know. I don't have a dog, but I tested my baby and it's been spot on. I mean, literally, I was taking a lift today and I tested the Lyft driver and she said, "Wow, that's amazing." So I call it like a blood pressure cuff for your emotions because it tells you where you are. And I think awareness is the biggest thing. So when you are aware of where you are emotionally, what your energy is doing emotionally, and you pair that with some frequency, but even if for if you're not comfortable or you don't know or you're shy, just even having that emotional awareness, the words to identify where you are, it's so powerful. So, as a nurse, paying attention to your emotions because your emotions, energy in motion, it's telling you where you are. And w- a lot of times we're not aligned. So the energy gets out of whack. So the energy might go frantic or it might get depressed, right? Then you get depression and anxiety. It's all your energy. So paying attention to your emotions.
That's so
I love
interesting.
that.
Yeah, we Charlene and I through Fifth Window have been talking about how people really are have a limited vocabulary when it comes to their emotions because they don't know how to name their emotions. And we've been doing some study of Mark Brackett, who is the director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. He has a book called Permission to Feel, in which he talks about a mood meter, and it's designed around teaching children how to name their emotions, name their feelings. And this sounds like this is the adult version of,
I
being
love
able
it.
to name you how you feel.
Yeah.
And I love that, being able to identify your emotions and then being able to address that, right? Why am I feeling, or how can I continue to sustain this good emotion that I'm having? On your platform, you talk a lot about or identify a lot about spirituality. Can you share that part of you with us and how that came about?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was in ministry for a very, very long time. So I was in ministry and I was a nurse. So you just already know burnout galore, right? And I was a full-time minister for many years. And so I dealt with many different populations and people. And I realized that I was very religious and I realized I had to drop that very quickly because it doesn't pair. It doesn't pair very well with spirituality. And spirituality for different people means different things. But what I have found is that um like they say, the energy don't lie. The energy doesn't lie, right? So whatever it is in your spirit, right? Whatever it is that you look to for your highest source. And, with the Christianization of the globe, there are many different thoughts on what to call God. And I really empathize with people because some people have serious religious trauma, and I just say, even though you may have religious trauma, there are still people, everybody has spirituality in some form, in some shape, and being connected to that spirituality, however you may call it, however you may identify with it, is really at the core of well being. Because if you look at spirit, it's energy, right? So if you can't connect with energy, you have a hard time connecting with everybody else and everything else because everything really is energy. And I talk a lot. I love the Bible. I love the Bible. It's amazing. And everybody has a different view of a different look on the Bible. In my journey, I have had a very different outlook on the Bible and on things in the Bible that I've always wondered, like, why was that there? Because, there are tones that people might think is taboo, like sexuality, but it's discussed in the Bible, so there's a lot of things that whatever sacred text, I say, I was raised with the Bible, it's a sacred text that I know, and I just talk about things I know. But whatever sacred text that is comfortable with a person, I think more than a text and more than a mindset is being connected with the unity of love, because
Mm,
love is the universal language of spirituality. So if you are, whatever you're doing connects you to love, real love, not just the emotion love, but deep, genuine, unconditional love for the human being, starting with yourself. And I will say that again,
mm,
starting with yourself. That is
yes.
spirituality at its highest. And when you connect with that, then you're able to love other people like you love yourself, and take care of yourself as a nurse or whatever practice you're in. But you will know how to, because you connected correctly with your spirituality.
That's some great advice for all of us and including nurses. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was really nice. It was a nice way to find a connection to your definition of spirituality for all of us. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And I know we don't talk about spirituality in nursing school or, residency, anything like that. So I think it's a really refreshing to hear that from your perspective, from someone who has all of this nursing experience and someone who's a healthcare worker, someone who is in business as well. It's just nice to see how integral it can be in our personal health. And we covered a lot of ground today in our conversation. We've talked about emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, financial well-being. And in our spotlights, we love to ask our guests about their own preferences for their well-being tools. But could you share some of your favorite well-being tools with our listeners? And what do you like to practice on a regular basis to support your own well-being?
That's excellent. So, of course, I talked about the frequency. So I do that all the time, and that's been really a game changer. But it's been helpful for meditation, because stilling my mind and really allowing myself to be still. It's been amazing. 20 minutes of meditation every day. For me, so I've tried many different types of exercises. The one that resonates with me is Qigong. Love
Mm.
Qigong. So that's what I do in my daily practice. And I make sure I take walk. I have to connect with nature. Walk in the nature space every day. As much as I can get, I have to be in nature. And then something for me personally is, I read this book about the power of saying no. And for me, I have to practice saying no, and I also have to practice validating myself. So I use a lot of affirmations, affirming how my day is going to go, affirming how my life is going to go. Um, Affirmations, very big for me.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's amazing. And I just want to say, too, it's wonderful that you practice Qigong. One of our previous spotlight guests, and actually my twin sister, who is also a nurse, is a Qigong practitioner. So
Um,
she did a Qigong practice in one of our spotlights. So I'm going to have to share that with you.
yes.
Um, but it's also all about energy. So, and
Mhm.
your chi, and
Yes.
really optimizing that in a way that really supports you and your well-being. So I love that you practice that. And the meditation, I mean, we talk about meditation a lot, but I think it really can't be emphasized enough how much it supports our ability to be in the present and to be mindful and to connect with ourselves on a deeper level. So I think that's really wonderful. And is there, as we kind of wind down on the conversation too, are there any final thoughts or any kind of final words that you want to share with our listeners, just in terms of anything that we talked about for today?
I would say my final words is something that I think is very powerful, but hasn't been really emphasized in life. So it's new to me and I'm learning, but be very careful with what you say after I am. I am is a state. So Um, so many people, they say I am and they use it frivolously. And I was guilty, Um, but what you say I am, you become. It becomes your reality. So be very careful with what you ascribe and prescribe to yourself.
That
That is so
is
powerful. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead,
that's
Kathy.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I just felt that, like, right through my core. Like, it was very, very powerful. I mean, we can see all of the different dimensions of you that make you you, but that statement is something that is universal that you just said to us. And so, yeah, I think that that is something maybe we should make a social media post about that. Shortly.
Oh my
But
goodness, there's so many
I
possibilities. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I mean, I think it's just wonderful, and I uh, I appreciate that everything you say that you do for your own well-being is intentional to preserve you. You know, the
Mhm.
minutes of mindfulness, the qigong practice that you have, the frequency that you do to just to check in with yourself, and nature, your connection to spirituality through nature, and realizing what you say after I am, how powerful it is, that I appreciate that everything you do is intentional. And I think that sometimes we forget about. We just
Mhm.
go through the motions thinking, "Oh, if I meditate today for 20 minutes, I'm gonna be okay." But it's intentional meditation, and it's intentional focus on me, so that at the end of the day, like Charlene said, you can't pour from an empty cup. They always have to
True.
have our cup filled. Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
And it's been such a wonderful conversation with you today,
Mm.
Kasey. Thank you again for joining us this Saturday. And just wanted to give you the floor to share how people can reach you. How can they find out about your work?
Yes, definitely. I am big on LinkedIn. It's my favorite platform. So if you want to talk to me one on one, LinkedIn definitely will be how you get through to me. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel that I am diligently working on. So the Spark is Love. That's my YouTube channel. My website, preserversoflife.com. If you need any help becoming visible as a valuable person, you can also book holistic wellness one on one if you want the frequency to check your frequencies. Definitely, you could find me there on preserversoflife.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kasey. Again, such a pleasure to have you and on our spotlight, and so great to see you once again. We'll need to have you back on the show again in the future, but so glad that we're still connected, and we'll definitely talk again soon.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, ladies, for spotlighting nurses. I think this is so precious. Thank you for having this platform. Thank you for having an app. I just really, really appreciate the work that you both are doing. And it means so much to nurses now, but in the future.
Truly appreciate that, and I think it's so inspiring to connect with you and so many other like-minded nurses and healthcare workers, because it really shows us over and over again how much bigger this community actually is than what people might think. So it's really our honor and our privilege to
Mm.
have you on the platform and to lift your story and the story of so many other nurses. So you and everyone we've had on this platform, you all really make our community what it is, and so just can't say enough amazing things about that. So kudos to you as well. You're doing some fantastic things,
Thank you.
but just
Thank
wanted
you.
to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I see Peter. Hi, Peter. Peter in the chat. Hi, Peter. Thank you. He's so supportive. Oh, the nurses, they're just so beautiful. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuning in today. We host our spotlights regularly on a monthly basis, so please stay tuned for the next one. And if you want to learn more about us, you can visit us at www.fifthwindow.com. That is FIFTH window.com. And you'll be able to see this video on our app pretty soon as well. But if you would like more resources, feel free to download the Fifth Window app, which is on the Google Play Store or in the iOS App Store. But once again, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you again, Kasey, for being here. Thank you, Kathy, for helping me today with the podcast. And we will see you all next time. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you so much, Kasey.
Oh,